And welcome back to the channel, and today I introduce you to the M240i. Now, it's joined the fleet, and when I say fleet, not just for me, this is the missus's car, so she's treated herself. We went with looking at something that was practical, good on fuel, had the space to carry adults in it, and this sort of ticked all the bills. And obviously that I'm a massive M fan, so made the decision to go with the 240i, much to my good friend's Matt's persuasion. Originally we were looking at 235i's, and he said, look, if you're going to do it, just go all out and get the best you can for your budget, which we've done. So 240i, for those that don't know, it's a 3-litre turbo, straight 6, makes around 340 horsepower. So on paper, this is good run for the E46 M3. So we'll be following that later in the series to see how they compare speed, acceleration and general driving. But today I'll just be introducing you to the car and the plans. So at the moment it's a relatively stock car. We're going to try and keep it that way for this summer because of the manufacturer's warranty. It's just let it run out. The plan long term will be going in performance kit, different wheels, spacing, potentially springs. Now the missus isn't sold on the idea of a lowered car, but I just have a sickness. I just have to modify everything, and I'm sure I speak for many men who do exactly the same thing. I don't have a drug problem, a drink problem, so it's where my money and my time goes. So like I say, the plan will be to get it cosmetically a little bit sharper looking, not looking to replicate an M2, because I know a lot of people will think that's where it's going with the build, because the M2 is a different league in itself on the looks wise, with the wider arches, but just to beef it up, because in standard it does look very understated for the engine and the performance in the package. But if you're enjoying the channel in general and you've got a 240i yourself, obviously subscribe, follow the build, and like I say, I'll just give you a rundown on what it's like to drive day to day and on some nice back roads. So we talk about the performance. You've got a rocker switch down here which gives you the option for eco, comfort and sport. So obviously today we'll be going sport and sport plus, so you probably can't hear it on the video. It jumps up a gear, move it into manual mode, and we've got the paddles. Now the paddles do feel really nice to drive with, and the thing does take off. Jesus, absolutely blistering on the acceleration, and that's also assisted with the torque. So if you've watched any of the other videos, you know I've got more of the naturally aspirated M cars, and I have driven obviously the M3 F80 with the turbocharged lump in it. Now the box is absolutely brilliant. I cannot stress how good the ZF 8-speed box is as a daily driver. And now I say that because it shifts flawlessly, it shifts smoothly, but the problem is it's quite dull. It's not like the DCT, and I can see why the M division kept the DCT, even though potentially it's not as efficient for mile per gallon, even though it does shift what feels like as fast. But the problem is it just feels a little disconnected. That might be because the car is running a standard exhaust. I don't know whether you can map the gearbox to change faster, but so this is something we're going to look into and follow us on the journey. But other than that, it does go really well. I mean, the shifts just, brilliant. And when it's in auto mode and you're around town, you can just leave it and just get on with your day-to-day business. And I think that's the beauty of this car is, no, it's not an M car, but it can keep up with it in the pace of a straight line. Once you've got it in the sport mode, you also get the slightly heavier steering feel, which makes a big difference, because in comfort it is too light. It's very disconnected feeling, but again, for round town driving, that's what you want. So you also get with this, like the later ones in the iDrive, the different settings in the comfort and the sport, and you can sort of tailor those a little bit. Not a massive deal like I found in the F80, but there is a bit of adjustment there. If you like certain aspects of one setting, you can sort of transfer it across. Now this also comes with the adaptive damping. So what that essentially means, like the E92, there, as you can see, the open diff unfortunately doesn't allow for any real sort of play. But the, as I was saying, back to the suspension. Now with the sport mode activated, it firms everything up, which does make a big difference with sort of driving. We're progressing now to nice back roads, and the car does feel tight. You can't fault it for that, and as again, it soaks up the bumps well. I don't feel like I'm being thrown everywhere, which, as we've discussed before, with some of the M settings on the M3 can sometimes be a little too much for general road use. But I'm happy to report for this, really enjoyable. So performance wise, the car will do 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, which I say for like a day-to-day car, that's so capable. You're not going to find yourself realistically needing more than 350 horsepower driving on your daily run. And what's even more surprising is it will still knock out 40 miles to the gallon, which is ridiculous. I'll talk about the cabin as well. Inside the car, obviously you get the later generation steering wheel interior, so compared to the E90 and especially compared to the E46, it is a lovely place to be. The steering wheel is gorgeous. They finally put the cruise control back on the steering wheel, one of my biggest gripes with the E92. Don't know why they put it down there on that little stick, but we'll move on from the flaws of the E92 and cover that in another video. But as I said, I'm enjoying driving the car. It's a good place to be. It doesn't make me want to just grab the keys and go for a drive. Now again, that might be down to the fact that it doesn't have a diff, making it more playful. The fact that it's got a standard exhaust, which is obviously not too quiet that you can't hear it, but it is quite dull in the sense that you don't really hear what the engine's doing underneath you, which sort of takes away from the involvement. But saying that, at the same time, like in the E92, I've got the chopped back box, and unfortunately on cold start it is horrific in the morning. It makes such a racket, but that's the payoff, unfortunately, until I get it coded out. So another little feature with the car, unfortunately, that's quite disappointing is it doesn't have oil or water temperature available to you, which I find so surprising for what they class as a performance model. The good news is there is an option to unlock it. If you YouTube how to bring up the temp gauge and oil gauge, you can actually get it brought up on the dash. The problem is it resets every time you turn the car off. So if you're going out on a spirited drive, it's probably worth turning on, but for your day-to-day, you're not going to need it. Oh, that torque, it's just ridiculous. There's no real lag either, which is surprising. I say it just picks up and goes. The moment you touch the pedal, don't get me wrong, throttle response isn't at the level of an NA car, but it's certainly nothing to be shunned at. I've got to say, it glues to the road and revs out. Very, very impressive little package. So the car also benefits from having the brake calipers from the M4, M3, which are the big 4 pots up front. They're quite easy to spot and they're sort of like metallic blue colour. You don't get the disc, which obviously isn't going to give you the best braking efficiency, but you also haven't got the cost of trying to replace floating rotors if you are just going to be round town driving. So it's a nice compromise. Again, you can see where BMW have gone with the car in trying to make it sort of something that you can blast around in, but you could track it, to be honest with you, if it had some good pads in it. But I guess it's more aimed at the sort of user that wants a sort of B-road sprinter potentially. But for the money, for what these cost now, I mean, you're going to be looking at about £20,000 for a decent one. An M2, you're going to be looking at what, £35,000, which, like I say, it's a lot of difference to try and find, especially if you're already sort of finding yourself, and then you've got to end up having bigger running costs with the M2. So I think if you're looking for something as a halfway house, or maybe even your insurance is, you know, potentially something you've got to factor in, and your mile per gallon, is certainly a good option to look at. For me, would it tick the boxes as a weekend toy instead? No, unfortunately not. It doesn't quite cut it for that, because it's, like I say, it's just a little too refined for that. But driving about and blasting in, I've got to say, I'm having a good time. There's nothing wrong with the car, it's just not an M car. And I know a lot of people have said, yeah, it's as quick as an M3, get it mapped, it'll be 400 horsepower. Yeah, great, you're faster in a straight line, but are you enjoying it? Probably not. But unless you're a straight line junkie, of course, maybe. But I don't think that's what M cars are about. If you want to go straight in a fast line, you buy something with 4-wheel drive so you can get it off the line. But as I've said, if you're looking for something that's a sort of, like we were, a bit of a halfway house, you can enjoy a bit of performance and it can still do 40 miles to the gallon with sort of practical running costs, it's certainly worth entertaining. What is strange with this car is, in standard form, driving along, you get a little note from the exhaust, a little burble, and then if you leave it in comfort mode and turn off the traction control, it does this weird little pops and bangs thing. Kind of cool, but you think, why has that been set up to do that? Interesting. But anyway, yeah, if you want to have a play, leave it in comfort and it sounds like this. Leave it in comfort again and turn off the traction control and it sounds like this. So yeah, the next video video, obviously we'll be sort of touching later in the year on some modifications, which I say we're sort of still working out where we want to go with the car. We don't want to go too crazy and start having it become unreliable or anything like that. But stay tuned. Obviously, if you enjoyed the video, only a short intro, give us a like and a subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching.